Hello everyone, I'm Easy. Today I welcome you to the Monster Madness Iceberg. I have compiled over 86 entries and put them onto 7 layers of this iceberg. I will warn you now, some of these entries might have topics like slurs, gore, or other NSFW things of the sort, so viewer discretion is advised. We will start at the top of the iceberg, or layer 1, which is surface level knowledge. However, as we go deeper, the topics start to get more obscure and unknown. I hope you enjoy this video, please like and subscribe, and now let's get started. Battle for Suburbia. Battle for Suburbia is the first Monster Madness game released on June 12, 2007 for Xbox 360 and PC. It's the most popular of the 3 games and is the most remembered. It's also the most modified, played, and discussed. It's a T-rated third-person shooter which has 4 protagonists fight through 5 chapters and 18 levels and facing over 70 monsters. They use makeshift weapons and fight bosses before they defeat the final boss and end the Monster Madness. Grave Danger. Grave Danger is the second Monster Madness game, released on August 8, 2008 for PlayStation 3. It's a much more cut-down version of Battle for Suburbia with an upgradable item mechanic, challenges to earn extra costumes, and very weird camera angles. It's often seen as the inferior version by the community, and it's only played for the challenges. This is because of the clunkiness, the removal of the run mechanic, lack of exploration, and other things we'll talk about later. Unreal Engine 3. Unreal Engine 3 is a game engine released by Epic Games in 2006, a part of the Unreal Engine series. It was a pretty revolutionary engine for its time, as it's one of the first engines to support multi-threading. Many popular games were made with it, like Gears of War, but it's mostly on here because Battle for Suburbia and Grave Danger were both made with this. Artificial Studios. Artificial Studios was a game studio that utilized Unreal Engine 3 to make a game called Cell Factor, but more importantly, they made Battle for Suburbia as their flagship title. In 2008, they were making a different game, however, they got suddenly shut down in 2010 and have not been active since. South Peak Studios. South Peak Studios was a game studio that made and published games, with their first being Virtual Jigsaw Masterpieces Edition in 1996. They were the publisher for both Battle for Suburbia and Grave Danger, but you won't find anything else notable in their published games list. In 2013, the company faded out of the public eye and they haven't published anything since 2011. Jeremy Stieglitz. Jeremy Stieglitz is a video game director born in Florida in April of 1969. He first directed both Monster Madness games out of his love for old, hard, twin-stick shooter games like Zombies Ate My Neighbors, Power Stone, and Gauntlet. He then got his big break in 2011 with Dungeon Defenders 1 and 2, which are still beloved and played games to this day. However, today he is famously known for being the director of Ark Survival Evolved in 2015, alongside the rest of the Ark series like the animated show Ark Genesis and Ark 2. GameFAQs. GameFAQs is an old video game forum board made in 1995. This site is where most of the first Monster Madness discussions were held and are still accessible to this day. Trailers, videos, and images also used to be shown here but have since been lost. Even Jeremy himself officially posted stuff here. r/Monster Madness. r/Monster Madness is the game's official Reddit page. It was made in August of 2013 and the first accessible post was made in 2017. It's not very active, but there is the occasional post, announcement, or discussion. The most notable post was made on April 5th, 2024, where the game's old music composer released a soundtrack on official platforms like Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Music. Madness difficulty. Madness difficulty is the 4th and final difficulty of the game that acts as a new game plus. It's only unlocked after beating the game once, and it significantly increases damage taken, monster spawns, and timers. To survive, meta weapons are practically required and good amounts of skill are needed. It's still very hard and challenging, even today. Larry_Sway777. This entry refers to a Monster Madness YouTuber who started making content on the game in 2022. He often does challenge runs, documenting big glitches, and hosts multiplayer games. These are often all live streamed and have pulled in a number of people who remember the game. The Gang. The Gang refers to the 4 main characters, which are often referred to with the same name in dialogue or pop-ups. In order, they are Zach Fowler, the nerdy love-struck geek, Carrie Rosenberg, the gothic, nihilistic, sarcastic girl, Andy, the rock and roll loving, totally rad skater guy, and Jennifer Sweeney, the popular airheaded cheerleader. Madness Melees. Madness Melees are powerful melee weapons for each of the 4 main characters, only found on the last level in the game on Madness difficulty. Zach gets Mjolnir's hammer with incredible knockback, Carrie gets an ancient sword with increased super meter charge, Andy gets Reaper's scythe with vampirism, and Jennifer gets flaming nunchucks with, well, flames. They're all pretty good, but some aren't exactly coded right, which we'll talk about later. Billy. Billy is a psychopathic teenage human who is rejected by everyone, even the monsters, and now seeks to kill anything he sees, be it a monster or the gang, with his chainsaw. He shows up multiple times throughout the game past his introduction, before he finally dies on level 17. Every time he shows up, the gang exclaims his name, which let him become a pretty popular fan favorite character quickly. He's also pretty unique for either attacking you or monsters before his final appearance in level 17 where he serves as a sole ally. Rest in peace, Billy. Monster Madness Online. This entry refers to a cancelled MMO which was announced in 2013 and later officially cancelled on April 1st, 2014. It had a few open betas where the gameplay does look a little slow, but overall it was very fun from what I've seen and would have been a huge treat to Monster Madness fans. Since its cancellation, we didn't know why it was canned, but in 2014 when a dev reached out to the community, it was revealed that the game was cancelled due to management and higher up issues, as per usual with games. Monster Madness Discord. The Monster Madness Discord is an active Discord server that seeks to unite fans of Monster Madness and talk about the game series. It was created on February 24th, 2023 by Max Deadbear, but went relatively unknown for some time. This was until Larry Sway found and advertised the server on his YouTube community page. This is how I and most others found it. Larry was then given server owner, a couple redesigns happened, and lots of advertising let it gain over 200 members. Many discoveries, projects, and discussions were all started here. You should join the Discord, link in the description. We also have a Monster Madness developer there. Xbox title update. Xbox title updates are what content patches, balance changes, and other things like that were called back in the 360 days. For its first and only title update will be pushed out in 2007, which fixed up a lot of bugs, balancing choices, controls, and softlocks. This is the quote-unquote best way to play Monster Madness, but whether you prefer this or unpatched is personal preference. More importantly, a patch like this was never officially released for PC, or it was lost to time. Community patch. The Community Patch is a project undertaken by Max Deadbear in the Discord, which seeks to patch the PC version. It brings QOL, balance, and bonus things that bring it more in line with the Xbox version and then some. It was started in early 2024 and is still ongoing today. Some of its biggest accomplishments were porting over every Grave Danger costume to BFS, fixing the Madness softlock, and getting Jennifer's Madness melee. It's the definitive way to play the PC version, so if you're looking to play the game on PC, play it with this. Larry Tools. Larry Tools is an ally NPC that you meet in level 2 who seeks to help the gang by selling them weapons, items, health, and ammo in exchange for monster tokens and weapon parts. He also acts as the narrator for the whole game, although at the end of the game he reveals he was behind the monster invasion and wanted the tokens in order to become more powerful. He also reveals his secret identity. Lawrence Thompson. Lawrence Thompson is Larry's real name. Lawrence could never get big in the movie industry and only did B-movie films and philanthropies such as donating to the Teach a Child a B-Movie Act Fund. After he stole the Devil's Soul and got the monster tokens, he was free to do anything he wanted, but was later defeated by the gang. Xenia. Xenia is an Xbox 360 emulator that most people play the Xbox version of Monster Madness on. It's notable for allowing easy installation of the patch and letting us play multiple builds of the game easy. Speedruns are also done with this. Vacuum Cleaner. The Vacuum Cleaner is a weapon that only appears once in level 8. It was supposed to be accessible through Larry, but due to internal changes in development, it was ultimately fated to appear once. A lot of people try to bring it into more levels, but there's actually no data for it outside of level 8, so you can't. Chingon Mexican. This entry refers to a YouTuber who does content occasionally. He's notable for doing achievement guides, showing off Madness melees, and getting the best rank, which is S rank on every level on Madness difficulty. He's currently doing S rank on Madness on every level in Grave Danger, but doesn't post as much due to being a father. Broken Melees. This entry is about how many broken melees are in the game. The most infamous one is Jennifer's broken flaming nunchucks. If you mod the game to spawn them, they work just fine. They're only broken because on the PC and Xbox version, they're completely uncollectible by normal means. This is because a dev forgot to hit the checkbox that makes them collectible. The second broken melee is Andy's Reaper Scythe. It is collectible, but when it hits an enemy, it crashes the game immediately. This is because it calls for a broken particle called Soul Dust. When this is removed or you don't render any particles, the melee works fine. The third is Zack's Squeaky Hammer from level 7. It was accidentally given 40,000 knockback momentum. This is because it's a joke weapon that was supposed to deal low damage but high knockback. However, a couple zeros were fat fingered during the end of development. Zack's House DLC. This DLC isn't anything for the campaign, unfortunately. It's actually a multiplayer map. It was purchasable for a few years after release, but you stopped being able to buy it around 2014 or so. It's easy to find a ROM for it online for Xenia, but the problem is the fact that you can't play online on Xenia. It was lost for a long time on PC until 2024, where a member of the Discord, Hart, had a friend who had a copy of the DLC for PC, officially recovering it, and is now played and appreciated in multiplayer today. Censorship. Censorship refers to a specific section in Grave Danger which was changed from Battle for Suburbia. On level 12 in BFS, you must recover 5 bones, one of which is a pelvis bone. In Grave Danger, this bone was changed for a generic cartoony bone. Bugs. This entry is talking about how absolutely goddamn buggy this game is. There are so many bugs tied to core mechanics, it's insane. It got to the point I developed a saying: every time you open Monster Madness, you will find a new bug. And it rings very true. There's been reports of monsters randomly shrinking in size, icons never seen before, out of bounds, and other wacky things of the sort. So although this game is really good, it's really buggy. Broken achievements. This entry talks about the 2 broken achievements in this game. These achievements are Go Speedboat or Go and I Think We're Being Followed. In both of these achievements you have to get to the end of a section in a set amount of time. The problem is, these timers for these achievements are just broken. In Go Speedboat or Go, the timer never starts, which never lets you actually get this achievement. In I Think We're Being Followed, the achievement says to complete the section in less than 4 minutes, but the actual timer they give you is 40 seconds, which is impossible. Broken grades. Broken grades refers to how the grading system requirements are broken on some levels. One of the requirements for an S rank is picking up a melee weapon. On level 7 PC or unpatched, Jennifer's melee doesn't get registered, making an S rank with her on this level impossible. The same thing is true for level 16, but this time, all the melees are bugged and don't register, making an all S rank game impossible on unpatched. Secret Fest. On level 12, if you go to a specific graveyard and destroy all the gravestones, you will be placed in a secret monster fest and get an achievement. This is the only case in the game, and it's pretty neat. Wish there was more. Dev names. Dev names refer to the devs' gamer tags that are seen in trailers, screenshots, and used in other forms in the game. This can be silly stuff like Morgy the Mole, or what a character's gamer tag might look like, which would be something like Leet Goth Chick for Carrie. Some of these names are questionable though. Minigun Hop. Minigun Hop refers to a trick that uses the minigun to let you propel yourself vertically. This is because the minigun pushes you back when it's fired. But if your back is to a wall and you jump, the backwards momentum instead pushes you vertically, which lets you skip several sections of the game. This was first talked about on October 2nd, 2022 on the Reddit page, which was simply called the minigun trick at the time. However, when Larry Sway and I got into a speedrunning race, I coined the term minigun hopping, and it's stuck ever since. No Demon Larry. This entry refers to all the sections from BFS that were cut from GD. Despite GD being advertised as the ultimate way to play MM, many notable and memorable sections of levels were cut or dumbed down in GD. The most infamous and talked about one is the removal of the final boss, Demon Larry. In BFS, you have to fight 3 faces of Larry tools, where the final one is Demon Larry. However, in GD, the game would just cut to the ending cutscene when the second phase of Larry was defeated. This is often why GD is seen as a bad game and a terrible way to experience Monster Madness. Monster tokens are people. Over the course of the game, you see no humans at all besides Larry and a janitor. This is explained at the end of the game when Larry is defeated and he releases all the monster tokens, and it's revealed that all humans were turned into monster tokens. This also lets us see Zach's parents. Purple Huggles. Mr. Huggles is a boss you meet in Chapter 2 who is obviously a Barney the Dinosaur reference. However, this was even more obvious as he used to literally be purple. This was very obviously changed last second as Andy still calls him purple during the fight, and in level 16 you could see art that depicts him as purple. It was all a dream. This entry is talking about the ending of the game. At the end of the game, after defeating Demon Larry, the gang wakes up and reveals all of the events of Monster Madness actually was a dream. But interestingly, when they meet up for school in the morning, it's revealed they all had the same dream. Then it's revealed that the monster invasion actually was real because Martians fly in on UFOs in the real world and destroy the school for literally no reason. Bouncy Shoes. Bouncy Shoes are an item power-up hybrid that are found in level 6, 17, and 18. They do exactly what you'd expect. You can bounce really high. However, there are multiple ways to exploit this item. You can run and hold jump to soar across maps because the added jump height combined with running adds up every single hop, giving you the best mobility in the game. You can also use minigun hop with the shoes and go above many invisible walls and skip entire levels. This is all because they aren't just equipped normally. They're put in your inventory for a moment and automatically equipped. If this process is interrupted, you'd be able to keep the shoes, which is exactly what was discovered by Larry Sway on December 31st, 2022. By using a certain weapon, you can interrupt the equip animation and keep the shoes for any level, which revolutionized speedrunning and gave everyone a new item to play with. OXM Disc 69. OXM Disc 69 refers to the official Xbox magazine, a subscription-based service that ran from November 2001 to May 2020. With every issue, you'd receive a demo disc that contained demos of upcoming games, videos, and other goodies. In this specific issue from April 2007, we got a lot of concept art that never made it to the actual game. We got Grey Andy, a different haircut for Jennifer, a bumper cart vehicle, the old design for the player tank, the old design for the player mech, the old design for Lord of Demons, the old design for Fat Zombies, concept art for an unused zombie heavy dragon enemy, different color palette for harpies, and purple Huggles. Grave Danger Mobile. This entry refers to the unknown and mysterious mobile port for GD. This port was hard to get our hands on because it was made specifically only for Androids running an old version of NVIDIA Tegra. However, when you actually play it, it's somehow an even more dumbed down version of GD. It has lower graphics, less monsters, less weapons, items, and ends at the first chapter. The reason it's so unknown is because it was lost media for a long time as nobody had the right device to play it on, and websites with the APK were pretty shady. This was until August 14th, 2024 where the first modern footage of GD Mobile has ever been seen. Barry Tools. Barry Tools is Larry's canonical not evil twin brother. He was introduced in Monster Madness Online and essentially serves the same purpose Larry did in BFS without actually being Larry for obvious reasons. Cheat codes. Cheat codes are pretty universal in old games and MM is no different, but everything relating to these cheat codes are way more obscure. First off, to access the menu to enter them, you need to pause and enter the Konami code. The only way you know that is by listening to random dialogue from Larry, and when that dialogue is surrounded by tons of other filler, it might be hard to notice. Second, the codes are nowhere to be found in-game. We didn't even have all of them until we found a GameFAQ forum where Jeremy just dropped all the codes. The game also has an anti-cheat which doesn't allow most codes to be used to complete the level because you'd be able to skip progression super easily. Console commands. Console commands are meant to be used by a developer in almost every game out there that can severely mess with the game for testing purposes, and MM is no different. After you turn them on in files, you can do a lot of things like God mode, no clips, skipping checkpoints, free camp, typical console stuff. Hand of God. Hand of God is a developer-only weapon that was never known for 17 years before its first discovery by console commands. By typing in God or deck out in console, you will receive the Hand of God weapon. This weapon is very unique as it has the model of a rocket launcher, but when held it gives you an extreme speed boost, doesn't consume ammo, and kills everything on the map every time it's shot with few exceptions. It's the absolute best weapon in the game without contest, and you even get to keep it if you complete a level with it, although it won't appear in your player inventory. It's also accessible in the Xbox version via modding. Chuck Norris. Chuck Norris is an American martial artist and actor who really needs no introduction. But did you know he's also in Monster Madness, technically? In the credits special thanks section, Thomas Williamson directly name drops him, saying Chuck Norris for being there when it counted most. Maybe he's a Monster Madness fan. Level 4 Elevator. The Level 4 Elevator is a cut objective from Level 4. In the files, there's dialogue for the gang mentioning this elevator.
An open elevator? I don't know if I trust it.
People, that elevator is probably nothing but trouble. Let's be on our way.
Dude, the elevator may get us to the roof to see a clear way to the police station.
You know, we may be able to see what lies ahead from the roof by taking that elevator.
It was probably an endurance section that the gang had to go on in order to see their next objective, although what this would look like, we don't know. It never appeared in any accessible build of the game and was likely cut early on as it didn't flow with the level at all. UPK Explorer. UPK Explorer is a program found on Nexus Mods that lets you look into the files, make mods, texture packs, or export textures from Unreal Engine 2 and 3 games. It's used within the Monster Madness community to mod the game, look through dialogue, models, and everything else you could think of. 20 to 25 levels. This entry refers to the trailers and cover art of the game that advertises 20 or 25 levels to play through. This is untrue, however, as in-game there's only 18 levels. When a dev was asked about this, they said it was likely the marketing that included sublevels or even multiplayer maps, and that to their knowledge, there is no cut levels in the game. Create a Monster. Create a Monster was a contest that was held sometime before the game's release around 2006. It was sponsored by IGN and had fans make a monster design with detailed description. They would then submit it to IGN for the chance of that monster being in the final game. There's also prizes listed for 1st to 5th place. For 1st place, they got their monster in the game, their name in the credits, an LCD 32-inch plasma TV, an Xbox 360, and a copy of the game when it released. 2nd place got a laptop and a Windows copy of the game. 3rd, 4th, and 5th place got an $100 Visa gift card, an Xbox 360, and a Windows copy of the game. There are 2 official winners, Dane Miner from the US and Tony Harrison from the UK, which are listed in the credits. Although South Peak themselves said they'd announce the winners soon, there is no proof this was ever done. We also don't know which monster even made it into the game. When we asked a dev, they said there's a chance they were never even added in the first place. There's also no proof of any prizes ever being given out. Unreal Editor. Unreal Editor was a program that was supposed to ship with the game's PC version. It was advertised on the box art that it would let people make their own levels and mods, but it was never actually shipped with any copy of the game. After asking a dev, there's a few possible answers as to why this was. 1, it might have been part of an agreement with Epic Games. 2, it might have been a file size issue to keep production costs down. And 3, it might have just been a decision from Jeremy. OXM Disk 72. OXM Disc 72 is a demo disc shipped with the 72nd issue of the official Xbox magazine. This one is more interesting than the 69th issue because this includes the demo for Monster Madness. It has old UIs, placeholder assets and voices, unused textures, and more. It features 2 multiplayer maps, Cemetery CTF and Gym Deathmatch, and 1 campaign level, Zach's House. It has pretty poor balancing, feels awful to play by modern MM standards, but it's pretty fun to dive into as a fan. It's also a version likely from around 2006, but the game was released in June 2007 and this disc was released in July of 2007. Very weird. Old BFS logo. In a trailer for January 2007, you can see an early version of the BFS logo with a much more graffiti aesthetic before it became a road sign. Sonic Dude. Sonic Dude was a Monster Madness player from 2007. He was active on the GameFAQs boards but hasn't logged into his account since 2010. He was a die-hard Monster Madness player and the first to ever S-rank all levels on Madness. This actually earned him a cheat code in the game with a special message congratulating him. The effects of the cheat essentially turn you into Sonic the Hedgehog, fit with the spin dash and losing tokens upon hit. What he's up to now though is unknown. School posters. This entry is talking about the various posters around level 10 inside Hell School. They're pretty out of place compared to the game around them, especially because these picture real humans. These people are most likely people who worked on the game. There's not a lot to say about them, they're just pretty funny and often referenced within the community. MMBFS Comic. This entry is about the promotional comic that was included in some copies of the PC version. This comic detailed a bit of lore and backstory about the gang before the events of the game. It shows stuff like the start of the monster invasion, the character's personality, and how they ended up meeting at Zach's house, which sets up for the events of the actual game. It's an interesting read and a huge treat if you're a Monster Madness fan. Delays. This entry is about the multiple times the game was delayed over its developmental cycle. It was supposed to release as one of the first games on the Xbox made with Unreal Engine 3 in November of 2006 alongside Gears of War 1. However, it missed this deadline and was delayed to a mid-April 2007 release. Then it was delayed again to May 15th and then finally released on June 12th. Because of older versions and the fact we know the final build was on May 17th, this means levels 12 to 18 were made in only 6 months. The delays also made this game cost $60 instead of the planned $40, which also contributed to its failure. Demon Fest 2014. Demon Fest 2014 was an in-game event for Monster Madness Online where groups of players would fight the Lord of Demon on differing difficulties. Those with the highest damage would get congratulated with their name on a piece of art for Demon Fest. It's your standard raid boss event for MMOs, but it was pretty cool. Reality Engine. Reality Engine was a game engine that Artificial Studios made in 2004 and Monster Madness was made essentially as a tech demo to mess around with it. Then, Epic Games bought the engine off Artificial and let them use Unreal Engine 3 without licensing fees as compensation. This also earned Tim Sweeney, the CEO of Epic Games, a cheat code named after him, a spot in the credits, and possibly giving Jennifer her last name. Jolt Collab. Jolt Soda is the main way to regain health in Monster Madness, but what most don't know is that the Jolt that appears in-game was a real drink. Jolt Cola is an energy drink introduced in 1985 with high sugar and caffeine. In 2006, Jolt Cola rebranded its drinks to battery bottles and then collabed with Monster Madness to put 3 different colors of these battery bottles in the game. A red one that refills all your health, a blue one that refills health over time, and a green one that refills 25% of your health. This is more apparent as in old builds of the game, Jolt didn't exist as it was instead called Happy Soda. Remnants of Happy Soda still exist on some textures though. Weirdly, this collab nor the Jolt company was ever mentioned in the game. The only way you know this was a collab is if you connect the dots or hear it from a developer's mouth. Bestiary art. This topic refers to some of the weird bestiary art in the game, specifically how some use concept art or incorrect designs compared to their in-game models. Lord of Demons uses his concept art when his model is completely different. A model of his old design does exist, but this wasn't used in the final game. We can also see purple Huggles in this picture. Fat Zombie's entry also uses his concept art with different clothes. The Werewolf's entry has black fur when he actually has green fur in all of his models. Mummy form. The Mummy form was a cut monster transformation that the player would have gotten access to in either Chapter 3 or 4. Its powers, design, and how far it got in development is unknown, as it was cut and replaced with the Demon form, which was quicker to make as it's basically a copy-paste of the existing Demon monster. Crosshairs. Crosshairs is talking about the separate, character-dependent crosshairs that existed at one point in development. In the demo, there's files for 4 different crosshairs for each character, and in old trailer footage from 2006, we can see these crosshairs in action. Andy's crosshair ended up becoming the only crosshair in the final game, as it's universal for everyone. Zach's has a spaceship thing going on at first glance, Carrie's is a precise triangle-like shape, and Jennifer's is a smiley face. This was likely changed as some crosshairs were definitely better than others. Pre-release build. The March 13th, 2007 build of the game was leaked online by the Terror Release 3, a massive project which leaked many Xbox 360 prototypes and builds. This build wasn't insanely different from the final build outside of placeholder monster spawns, jank, and placeholder assets. It's even more buggy than the final release, which is to be expected. Weirdly, there is a lot of random things like moving platforms being still, giant objects, and file names being used. But there are some good things like way more monster variety, unintentional movement tech, and never before seen stuff like the bouncy shoes description in the player inventory. Billy's Bestiary. Billy's Bestiary description in the pre-release is vastly different from the final release and is an extreme placeholder. It is slightly odd as it's the only placeholder description in this build's bestiary. It reads, Jason wannabe? I don't think so. But seriously, the whole Jason series was really a ripoff of Billy, the character shown here in Monster Madness. Not really, but these descriptions are just filler. Jeremy probably won't even believe that I wrote this long of a description for every monster. But really, presentationally, Immersion will need to see a full paragraph by each monster so they can get a good idea of how the whole layout looks for each asset. New Crew. New Crew refers to concept art for 4 characters that were supposed to be a new set of characters in the Monster Madness universe. These were drawn by Valheim, the game's main artist, on October 25th, 2007 and posted on DeviantArt. Although they were never used in any capacity, what these characters would have been for is unknown. Old Jen and Zack. This entry refers to concept art, again drawn by Valheim, for what an older version of Zack and Jennifer would look like. Zack looks badass with 2 giant double-sided axes, new glasses, and a trench coat. Jennifer looks mostly the same besides glasses and letting her hair down though. Weird art. Some of the art, especially towards the Grave Danger era, was pretty off and not very MM-like. From the devs' accounts, this is because the art for the BFS game cover and the GD art wasn't by the main artist. Instead, these artists were a last-minute decision from South Peak. Some of their work can be found on the BFS game cover and various other things relating to GD. They were also not credited in the credits for either game. 2005 MM. Although there's not much, we do have some pictures of what the game looked like during its development in 2005. And let me tell you, this was a completely different game. The art style was far more gritty and seemed more horror themed, fit with everything having red blood rather than green blood. The UI was drastically different and looked more Victorian goth. This was later replaced with a DIY notebook aesthetic before being minimized to cards for later builds. There's also no proof the game went past suburbia at this point, lacking even levels like the park or downtown, so it's possible the entire first chapter took place in the neighborhood. 2005 MM website. The early website archives found on archive.org are where most pictures of old MM come from, as it was just the logo with pictures of the game attached before being turned into a proper website in late 2006. It has videos, concept art, and pictures of MM from that era. Most of these pictures would be put into OXM Disk 69. The ones that weren't show more of the old art style with familiar models being textured completely differently than what we know now. R-Slur. R-Slur refers to a model found within the files of CTF Castle Towers. This model just has the R-Slur in the name. I would assume the guy making it wasn't having a great day. DLC 2. We all know about the Zack's House DLC, but what's much more unknown is the mysterious DLC 2. We only have bits of information about it and a single screenshot. What we do know is that it's another multiplayer map which would take place in the Chapter 3 high school on the ground level, inside, and on the rooftop. It would have ATVs, mechs, and UFOs, and support 16 players. Although it was available for purchase years after the game release, there's been no pictures or videos of anyone playing on it. The existing archives you can find online are all corrupted or broken, and you can't even look inside them with the UPK editor. So until someone shows proof of them owning or playing DLC 2, Battlefield High School is lost media. Prototype build. The November 26, 2006 build is the earliest accessible build, which was also released in Terror Release 3. It is a drastically different game, aesthetically, mechanically, and control-wise. It has multiple objectives from levels that didn't make the cut monster introductions, cut NPCs, cut mechanics, cut dialogue, and I'm sure you get it. As is in line with MM, the balancing is also completely awful and is brutally difficult. This is actually because Jeremy wanted the game to be hard, so whenever playtesters got better at it, he upped the difficulty more and more. If you're an MM fan, this is absolutely worth checking out, and it's very, very cool to see. Huggles Man. Huggles Man is the most terrifying thing to come out of the prototype and MM in general. In the Huggles fight in the final game, you have to crack his shell to reveal another monster, which is just a Star Wars reference. However, in the prototype build, when you crack the shell, it would be very different. Instead of a monster who wants to eat kids, you get a guy who looks like he wants to touch them instead. It looks like a human, and he's bloodied, fat, his voice is raspy and creepy. He also has fully textured chest hair and nipples. His model is obviously unfinished, but it just adds to the creepiness if anything. It's like you aren't supposed to see this. His boss portrait is also the same picture, just with more blood effects added on. This was genuinely terrifying to see the first time I played throughout the prototype. The same model is also in the files for the release game, but it's just untextured. He also has this voice line.
Don't you know who I am? It's me, Daddy!
This voice line also persists in the pre-release version of the fight. It's a no-brainer why this was cut. Real gore. Real gore refers to a texture within the game files of the final level. In this level, you must knock down the final boss, then his stomach will open and you must destroy the monster token inside. The inside of his stomach is textured, and there's a theory where this texture might be actual gore, but it's anyone's guess. I would hopefully assume not, but you never know. Diaper fetish art. This refers to a user on DeviantArt who drew art of Jennifer and Carrie in diapers. These diapers, most of the time, were full. Look for it on your own. Jennifer sexualization. Jennifer's sexualization is pretty self-explanatory. Over the course of the game, Jennifer is constantly put in sensitive positions, hit on, and all of her costumes and costume voice lines from both BFS and GD are very suggestive. And for some reason, in every comic cutscene, her nipples are visible through her shirt. There's also this official art which is put in a volume of the Girls of Gaming magazine. This is all pretty weird in itself, but it gets worse when you realize her canonical age is 17. Yeah. Every copy of Monster Madness is personalized. Now you might think this is the standard meme entry on every Iceberg, but hear me out here. Monster Madness is very buggy, we all know that. However, there are many cases of certain bugs or similar bugs plaguing one specific person's game. In my case, my bugs are related to Carrie's melee weapons. For some reason, my copy and only my copy of the game, my Carrie has 2 melee weapons. My Carrie's melee swing range is also bugged and far longer than anyone else's for no reason. And no one else has ever experienced these bugs before that has been documented. As far as I know, I'm the only person to have these specific bugs. Now this entry might be a meme, but think about it for a little bit. Well, that was the entire Monster Madness Iceberg. If you made it to the end, thank you. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to see more Monster Madness content or you just like the work, please like and subscribe. Also join the Monster Madness Discord. We're active and new discoveries are always being made. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.